Hi, everyone. Welcome to Between Two Coaches. We're on a mission to make fitness more human. Snark sold separately. I'm Coach Amanda, and I'm joined, as always, with my co-host, Coach Nick.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining back. Thanks for spending some time with us. We have a great episode today. Really great. We're going to talk about normalized disordered behaviors in the fitness industry. We're going to give out some listener love because we love to listeners and we love to give love. We're going to answer some of your questions, and of course, we're going to air some grievances. But first, we wanted to chat a little bit about how and why we started this podcast because I don't think we shared that story, Amanda, and I don't think people really know it. And, I think it's a little interesting. So I'll hop into it a little bit. So Amanda and I really found each other on Instagram. What was it like? Well, you were on the Running Explained podcast, and then I was, and then we sort of met each other through social media, and that's how people meet these days, in the normal world of. And so then, we just followed each other and liked each other's content, and then we met through our mutual friend Vicky, and at the New York City Marathon, and we took one photo, and that's our only photo. And that was like the first time we met, and we have only really talked on Instagram, right? And so I wanted to do a podcast for a couple of years, and I was like, I need the perfect co-host. And then I was like, I really love her content.
Oh,
I
no.
love how in her face she is. I was like, exact opposite of me. I was like, I just love this energy. And so I basically kept manifesting this thing, and I'd send her a DM and I'd be like, hey, podcast, that sounds like a great topic for a podcast. Should we do a podcast? And, so we finally, I think I finally convinced you.
Yeah, I mean, you say manifesting. I don't know. That you said trolling wrong. You said trolling wrong. I think that was our journey together. And no, the image that you see on your podcast listening channel of choice is not actually us. That is a cartoon of me and Nick. That's not really us because Nick's right. Nick and I only have one photo together,
Yep.
and Vicky's in the middle of it.
Yeah, we
And
thought
it's
about just putting
on
we were going to write over
Broadway
her,
in the middle
but
of the Upper West Side.
just write text over her. But yeah, and so I think the interesting thing about that is I think a lot of podcasts are started and they're family members or they're like best friends for 85 years, and they're like, let's do a podcast. And like, what's fun for all of you listening, and for me and Amanda is like, you are watching our friendship basically grow, right? Every week, Amanda and I are learning things about each other we didn't know because we basically know nothing about each other. Yesterday, I learned she's Jewish, so just learning, right?
Aziz and Pesach to all who are celebrating this week.
And so, like, every week you get to be a part of this growth of friendship, right? And so, it's a fun little journey we're on. We thought it'd be fun because we don't really know each other to like have this podcast where we get a chance to do that and also talk about coaching things. So, yeah, anything to add on that, Amanda?
What I love about Nick and I are so different, as some of you know, because you follow us closely and you've now listened to us for 90 minutes, unfortunately for you. So you know that we have different approaches, but our values are the same. And the other thing that I really love about Nick is, and I consider myself similar in this way. He is always in your corner. He's on the hype squad. Even when he doesn't know you, he makes you feel seen. He makes you feel heard. He's cheering for you. And I felt that even though Nick and I had met only one time. So he's an obvious Kobe, aka co-host.
I love
So
that.
So thank you for trolling me into being your co-host.
Well, thank you for the kind words. And I knew I'd wear you down. It felt like it was going to happen.
I was exhausted. I was honestly exhausted.
So we wanted to share that with you a little bit, just a little bit of the why and the how behind us and how we got to this point, and a lot of growth with us coming. So, Amanda, do you want to head on to our listener love portion of the episode?
Yes, I do. So we got keep the questions coming. Okay. So DM us, send us an email between two twocoaches@gmail.com. Keep the questions and the topic ideas coming. We have a ton of great ones. So the next one is from Move with Maddie. Move with Maddie, shout out to Maddie. She is a fitness trainer based here in New York City, personal trainer and a group fitness instructor, but she's also a lover of fitness. And she asked, why do some fitness enthusiasts not take rest days? Do I need a rest day?
Oh, well.
Nick, I'm gonna pass it to you first because the why, it's the why for me. It's the why.
Yeah. So, to the first part, the why. Why do some fit enthusiasts not take rest days? Yeah, there is an obvious dependency for a lot of people on exercise, right? It's masks under run streaks, or it makes me feel good, or like I'm just getting fit, or all this stuff, and that's fine because and in reality those are good things, right? But it's still a dependency. If you can't take a day off no matter what, you are dependent on something, and that's a bad thing. So taking rest days is, I've been in this sport running wise 25 years, and I have never gone. The longest run streak I have in my life is 31 days because one January I was just like, let's run every day. And that's it. And I've never gone any longer, and I always value my rest days. And I think having that healthy balance of not being dependent on running, not needing it to, not exercise in general, not needing to do this movement every day helps me be better off as a human being, helps me be more uncomfortable in situations that I need to be, because it's hard sometimes to break away from that, and having the ability to be uncomfortable is growth. And so sometimes it's, if you're dependent on something, try to not do it for a day. But outside of all that, like to answer your second question, everyone needs a rest day. I think going at it all the time nonstop is not the healthy answer. And your body needs rest at some point.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. How do I put this? If you have a no rest days approach, you're identifying as somebody who's disciplined, but you're riding the line of disordered, which I know we're going to talk about more today.
We are.
But as Nick was saying, it's like rest days are critical, full stop. And they don't just help your muscles recover, but they improve your performance the next time you go into your training. So and furthermore, your body and your brain just can't operate at quote unquote the optimal level. Everyone's into optimizing. They can't operate when you're exhausted. Even if you don't know you're exhausted, your body may not have. English is hard for me after 5 p.m., y'all. Okay. It's after 5 p.m. for me. Your body may not have had told you yet that you're exhausted. Maybe there are no signs, but it's coming. And you want to get ahead of that. That's such a great question. I love that question.
Yeah, and I always go back to the formula: stress plus rest equals growth, right? And there's a rest in there. And so if it's just stress, it doesn't equal growth because you're missing the plus. So, for those mathematicians out there, we got
Everyone
that.
Have their TI-84 calculator out.
I used to store all my answers in the little text file.
You would.
Yeah, and so, I think, and to your point, like, not only does your physical body need to recover and rest days, so does your mental. So, like, we always forget that part of, like, being a human being, and we're just like, we are robots, and we lift and we run, and our body can handle the physical. But what about the mental? What about, like, just needing it for mental reasons to rest on a day, right? We never think about that.
That, in short, you need a rest day. You do. And if you can't trust yourself to know when to need it, hire a coach or just plug it in to
every
your
week,
calendar.
same day.
Okay, just like a workout. Great. This is my rest day.
All right. We love that. Thanks for the question.
Is it grievance time yet? Is it grievance o'clock?
I feel like one's coming.
Oh gosh. I got some things to say.
Uh-oh.
I got some things to say. So let's take a minute and talk about ACK, otherwise known as Ass Clown Kirk. Okay. He's been given a nickname because I am exhausted for him. So who is Ass Clown Kirk? He is Taylor Swift's trainer. Okay. And he shared a couple of quotes with either I don't know the publication, but it went viral on Threads and on Instagram. But basically, what he said was that Taylor leaves his sessions in physical pain, and that she needs to, like anyone who does his workouts, needs to quote unquote lie down.
We don't like that.
So I'm like, LOL first at the fact that you're a trainer who believes leaving any person in physical pain is a flex. Full stop. That flag is red and waving hard. He said, so the quotes are accompanied by a photo of Taylor Swift, and it's very obviously showcasing her assets. I'm not even going to go into the fact that what the exercise was, but I will. It was a donkey kick with an ankle weight. So I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here, sir. I'm not the one. Just didn't take Tay-Sui as the type. That's Taylor Swift, by the way. I didn't take Tay-Sui as the type of homie who needed saving. But Travis, step to the front. Come get your girl. She needs to be saved because ACK, he's out of line for this. Yep. He's out of line.
That's that bullshit.
That's that bullshit. You know, I know so many talented performance-based, because that's what he wants, right? He wants to be seen as hardcore, results-driven. I know so many talented performance-based personal trainers, run coaches, fitness professionals, and none of them have to say how hardcore they are.
Nope.
That's that bullshit, ACK. We're done with you.
Yep.
We never started, but now we're done.
We have to protect Taylor at all costs.
It's true. Yeah. Are you a Swiftie?
I'm a newly appointed Swiftie for many reasons. So she helped my Chiefs win the Super Bowl. So that was super cool. And she's dating our tight end, so that's super cool.
Wait.
So,
she plays football? How did she?
Well, just her aura basically won the Super Bowl for the Chiefs. I mean, that's the company line around the internet. The NFL just wanted her to win because she deserves it. So, but I'm grateful that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, and also really realistically, when she started, like, I've always listened to the New Heights podcast. That once that whole thing happened, and her and Travis got together, I got more following in the Swiftie world. It just got inundated in my reels and my Twitter, and it was just a fun experience to see all these people talk about her in that way. It reminded me of like sports fans and their teams, only more loyal. And then the Swifties started defending the Chiefs, which was super cool.
That's great.
So, and then my kids, they will love Taylor. So we've listened to the album nonstop every time we get in the car. So yeah, I become a Swiftie through the kids and through football.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. You did not ask me if I was a Swiftie. The answer is I am not a I can't identify as one because I am asking too many questions after listening to this album. I've been informed by several Swifties as to I needed to know who all the people were that and I didn't know, but yesterday I learned. I learned yesterday who all the he's were, and Amy. I mean, I feel like that album should have come with an instructor, a user manual, and it didn't. And for those of us who are not as invested in like just like celebritydom, I needed it. I was the one who needed it. But I support Taylor Swift because I support any woman who makes men angry over how successful she is. Yep. So she's a powerhouse, and I'm not a Swiftie. Like, I can be both.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. All right. Well, ACK, you're done.
Canceled.
At least on this podcast. All right. Well, we grievanced out there. Are we ready to talk about our topic today?
I think so. I feel like everything we've spoken about thus far kind of lends itself to the normalized, disordered behaviors in the fitness industry.
And that was all planned because that's how we do this. We're so planned here.
We think
Yeah.
in this podcast world, we think. So I just want to start off by saying that before we talk about any of the behaviors that are normalized, there is being fit and then there's looking fit, or the aesthetic of fitness. And these are two areas that are confused in the industry, and they are not the same, but they will lend itself to our conversation once we go into the behaviors. You know what I mean?
I do. I hear you on that. And we'll definitely dive into that.
So, should we start with a couple of behaviors that we see that are disordered?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Run streaks.
Run streaks. Yeah.
You were just talking about how you've taken part in a run streak before. It wasn't very long necessarily, but
I didn't like it either. It was like 31 days, so I did January.
it sounds yeah, I've never done one, but it sounds exhausting. Like it sounds like like I would not like running at a certain point.
Yeah, so I started when I went it over. I was like, "Hey, let's take some days off." I also wasn't like some people do it. Is in a way like I feel like it's even more disordered when it's like, "Oh well, I just ran a marathon yesterday, but like I only have to run a mile to keep my streak up," and I'm like, "But to me, that's like you're just doing it because like you're not gaining anything from this mile. It's not making you less sore. It's not doing. It's just like when you set like I was running like a normal amount every day for a month, right? Like my 7 or 8 miles, whatever it was, and that was just my month. And so it wasn't, oh, it's Monday, I don't feel like going, but I just got to do a mile. Like I would just, if I felt that bad, I just wouldn't have run. This streak was just, I was excited for a month. But I think sometimes we take it to the extreme because, again, we're so dependent on this thing and we need it in our lives that we can't possibly not have it. And you all see it with run streaks too. Like it starts off as this, oh, I'm just joining this sport and I just, I want to exercise every day. And it's a new sport to them. It's lifting, it's exercise, it's gym, whatever. And then all of a sudden they do it for a month or 2 months and all of a sudden they're streaking and then they can't stop. And they're like a year later and like, oh, but I've been streaking for a year. I absolutely can't stop. Like this is the only thing keeping me going. If I stop, I don't think I'll exercise anymore. And when you hear those types of things, it's like that's when you start getting in this disordered world where if you did truly love whatever your exercise is and you rested for a day, you would still love it the next day and it wouldn't destroy your streak with it. But if it's so dependent on needing to never not do it, you probably have a relationship with that exercise that is unhealthy.
Yeah, I think the problem is when you're not questioned, but when somebody says to you, "Well, what if you just can't run today?" And if that causes you to have feelings of anxiety or you feel as though you have to make it up in some other way,
Yeah.
I think that's when what you're talking about it goes from a health promoting behavior, the act of running, to disordered. Yeah. Yeah. What's another behavior or belief?
So, I always hear this one's like it's like a line, but like calling exercise therapy. And so, I understand the way people say it is that okay, I go for a run, it clears my head, it makes me feel better. Like those are benefits of running. And I understand sometimes there are people like it's like my therapy. Again, like maybe it's a little like but like I understand their sentiment and like whatever.
Yeah.
Wrong
That
word.
was right.
Oh, right word. Okay. It's past 5. So I understand what they're trying to say, but I feel like too often people are, well, I have these things in my life that are really triggering and issues. And instead of talking to someone, and let's start by prefacing this. Therapy is super cool. I'm pro therapy. I go to a therapist once a month. It is the coolest thing in the world to have someone listen to you talk for an hour about yourself. And they just listen and then they offer some insights and they're not judging. And you're just like, oh, that is a point. I've learned so much about myself from it. But to this point back here, like so many people are, I think, have things that they could work through that they're masking by exercising, by going for a run, by going to the gym, that like you can do both. You can exercise and you can also have someone listen to you about all the things in your life and sort of help you grow in a different way. So go ahead.
Yeah. No, I when I hear running is somebody's therapy, I just ask them bluntly, like, what else is in your toolbox?
Yeah.
Because running is, we know running is great for the mind. It's great for our bodies, not all the time, but in a periodized fashion, and it can be incredibly therapeutic. But we can't be relying on running or working out as a mental health intervention. It's not sustainable, and it doesn't provide us with the professional support you were referring to that all of us really could benefit from. The other thing that is a really hard truth for anyone who considers himself a fitness enthusiast or a runner or just someone who loves fitness is there will come a time where you cannot engage in your sport.
Yep.
So it's not a matter of if, it's when. You will need that therapeutic toolbox to be fruitful as hell.
Yeah, and that goes back to like we're intertwining things here as we go through, but run streaks and just this idea of like, oh my god, I'm having this rough day. Like maybe my kids are going crazy, work's crazy. I have to go run. Like again, that dependency, because running fixes things in your mind when really at the core of it, there's something else there that you could benefit from working through. And what happens if you get injured? Do you run through your injury? Like, do you break your foot and you put like a boot on and then you put a bag over it and tape it up so you can go in the pool and run or what? Like, how far do you go because you need this thing because you don't have other things in your toolbox?
Yeah, that's a sneaky one that, as you were saying, people say, and whether or not they mean it literally, I know that society has internalized that.
Yes.
We see it everywhere. So that was a good one. And by good, I mean bad.
Yeah. Good, bad.
It's a good bad. Is it down bad? Did I do that right?
You did, I think.
I have no idea. I
don't
have no
either.
idea. I'm so sorry, Tay Sweet. I'm so sorry. Tay Sweet is how I identify as a Taylor Swift fan, by the way. Tay Sweet. How about fasted training?
Yeah.
It is not a look. And yet I will still see people posting stories where they're like, just did my 60 minute or 6 mile fasted cardio session. Like, okay, bro, I'm good for you. I'm not going to be hungry, but I don't know why is it cool to operate in a deficit? When did it become cool to be hungry? It's not giving what you think it's giving.
I think it's always that level of like, oh, I could exercise, or I could show you up by doing more, right? How can I be more tough? How can I be more cool? How can I make this harder by like, oh, I won't drink water during my race. I'll show everyone how tough I am. Like it's always like just this toughness level. We want to just prove our toughness by not eating, not drinking water, not like shutting out things on our life that we love to show our toughness. And so when it comes to this, like, I think there's one time I did this because I read this ridiculous article about, and there was some science in it, but I didn't like it. But about like doing a fasted long run so your body could learn to burn fat, and so you don't eat anything. You do like a 20-mile long run, you don't fuel, and then afterwards you like devour food, and your body's like, it learned, and all it did was destroy me. And like because then when I finished, I couldn't eat nearly enough, and because like I hadn't eaten in forever, and I just did this 20-mile long run, and my body was like where you should have been fueling this whole time. And so then like it just put me in a bigger hole, and then I couldn't run for like 3 days. So no part of me wants any of this. I want to fuel my body like an athlete. And I think again to this point, when you're in this exercise fitness world, you need to call yourself an athlete because you are doing athletic things. You are lifting weights, you are running, you are exercising, you are cycling. Those are athletic things. I think too often we want to be like, well, we're not an athlete because I'm not in the Olympics, or I'm not competing professionally, or I'm not even being competitive. Well, who cares? Who put the line at what makes you an athlete? Like, is the line is that you have to be in the Olympics to be an athlete? The line is you have to be a professional to be an athlete? Like, the line is you're doing athletic things fuel your body like an athlete. Like that's where it starts. Like don't put these little limitations on yourself. And then that's when we do those limitations, then we start being able to do things like, oh, we'll do intermittent fasting. We'll do fasting for our run. We won't eat before our run. We won't eat before our bike ride. We won't drink water because I'm not really an athlete, so my body doesn't need it.
What you said earlier is you know better. You went through an experience and now you do better. You also are somebody who educates yourself, and you also hired support, right? You had also worked with a registered dietitian
Yeah.
to dial in on your nutrition. I remember you sharing that earlier with Queen Kylie. Shout out to Queen Kylie.
Shout out.
Think that in today's world of all the information we have, while neither Nick nor me are registered dietitians, what we know is that a fueled body performs better. So if you know better, can you do better? Lindsay, yeah, I'm talking to you. Intermittent fasting, the only time you should be intermittent fasting is when you're asleep.
It's so true.
And then you go fast to the fridge, you wake up, and you put that peanut butter on that toast, and you crush your day.
Yeah. I mean,
coffee is not breakfast, and now I'm stepping off the box.
oh man, yes. But yeah, and not to mention, like, fuel is free energy, right? So don't we want free energy? Don't it make us perform better? Like, it's free. We just put it in our mouth and then we're better athletes. Like, it's crazy how that works. Like, just like water's free, so is this. Food isn't free, but once we own it and eating it,
Right.
That's free. It's energy.
Right. Would you walk out of your house with a cell phone at 2% battery?
I know, because then you wouldn't be able to get content.
I know. But sometimes, some days I'm like, ooh, that phone, there's a lot going on there. Maybe I fuck around and find out, you know? But that's not where we're going. Let's go back to where we were. We like you well fed. Not just to fuel your sport or your training, but to feed your life. So let that be that.
Right on.
What else we got?
Oh, what do we got? So we can talk a little bit about thinness equals fitness and muscles equal fitness, right? And so this normalized belief that like looks, appearance have some definition on how you are as an athlete or how you're fit or not, right?
Yes. And I was taking a deep breath because I know I get heated over these things. So I have to
I know.
Just have to take a seat. So let's clarify some things. Being fit and looking fit are not the same thing. That's something that we have to consciously unlearn, even though we've heard this all our lives and we've seen it all our lives. There are fat people who are fit. There are thin people who are fit. There are everywhere in between people who are fit. And there are fat people who are not fit. There are thin people who are not fit. There are everywhere in between people who are not fit. Okay? So it takes maturity in one's fitness, not just physically, but mentally, to really understand this, that fitness doesn't have an aesthetic and health definitely doesn't either.
Nope. And, and when it comes to, taking it further into running, like this is a sport dominated by this look. They look fit. That person looks like a runner. Like all these times we hear it, like, and it's always like the skinniest possible person who is it. And like, I think this goes both sides. Like looking a certain way doesn't mean fitness, but also like using someone's looks to say like they're unhealthy or like they're, going through something because of the way they look is also absolutely terrible. And people do that too. So like looks should have no part of how you judge someone as an athlete, right? It's just people look every different way, and that is perfectly fine. Once we start bringing that into it, all we do is start, making people upset, triggering them. You don't know what someone's been through, but by easily walking up to them and saying, "Oh, wow, you look so fit right now," having no idea what they've been through, you could set them off spiraling so bad. And you just think you're being, oh, that's just a nice comment. Like, I was just trying to be nice. Don't get mad at me. Like, always getting defensive. Just don't say it, right? We don't need to say those things, but it just feels like it's a part of the exercise fitness world to tell someone their look means they are fit or not fit, or judge someone by the way they look, saying, oh, you're unhealthy.
Yeah, this is a whole other conversation, I'm sure, but a huge reason why this message is perpetuated is because frankly, the fitness industry and also the nutrition industry, they have an eating disorder problem and disordered eating issues, whether it's intentional or not. So what you don't know is, like Nick is saying, you can look at somebody and see visible muscles, but you don't know that they're knee deep in a battle with anorexia. You don't know that their body is actually not functioning. There are so many fitness related wins that have nothing to do with somebody's aesthetic. Bone health, improved bone mineral density, blood pressure control, strong tendons, strong ligaments, cognitive health. You can't see any of this. You can't. So it's so unfair to us as folks who want to engage in fitness as a part of our lives for the rest of our lives to judge somebody's ability, their pace, what they're eating, to judge any of that and determine whether they are fit or healthy.
Agreed. And I think I'm going to start telling people, damn, those are some strong tendons.
That for me is the ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
I may or may not have said to somebody earlier today, they asked me what my ferritin level was, and I shared it with them, and they were like, wow. And I said, thank you so much. It's a PR for me.
Well, that's great. That's what we want to celebrate.
I think so. What else we got? This one's a little niche, but I think it's important because we always hear this phrase, treat meals or cheat days, when really these are scheduled binges, that's a disordered behavior. If we are, again, we are not, it's so closely tied into fitness that I think it's worth mentioning that while we are not nutrition professionals on this podcast, it is so important to remember how closely we tie these, how close they are to each other, and this mentality around earning and burning food using exercise, that I think it's important to mention that is a disordered behavior. So leaning into a better approach to nutrition will not only better your performance over the course of your week, your training, but it's absolutely helpful in changing how you view food too, and changing your relationship with food, if that makes sense. I think I went on two little tangents, but we met at the same road.
Yeah, it made sense. I think, and you always see it around the holidays, times when people are like, oh, well, I ran this 5K today. Now I can eat turkey dinner, or, oh, now I can have a cookie. And I also know, again, saying exercise is therapy, like people do it in a joking manner. But instead, maybe it's not something to joke about, because who knows who's taking it the wrong way, and who knows who's really means it or not, in some kernel of truth in there for themselves. And so I think, eat enough always is a phrase that I love to say. I learned from my old coach. He says it all the time. And, I think having, one of the things I talked about this, I think I maybe in another episode, what Kylie taught me was like planning your nutrition around your training, right? Like if it's a heavier day, then you do eat it more. Like, if it's a long run day, you're going to eat more before and after. If it's a hard interval day, you're going to eat more. Like if you can treat your training and match it to your nutrition and like have a plan that way, then we don't need these cheat days or things. Like we don't need to go into this avenue because we already have a plan in place. Like the same way we do training, everyone has a training plan, but so people have a fueling plan, a day-to-day fueling nutrition plan that goes with it. And so then I think without that, they're in chaos, and it leads to like, oh, well, it's my cheat day. and again, it's like we're people in the fitness industry. If you want to drink, have a drink, right? Like in a healthy way, we're not encouraging too much, but like if you want to have a drink, have a drink. If you want to have a cookie, have a cookie. Like those are part of a nutrition plan to fuel an athlete's body, right? And those are okay. It doesn't have to be I'm having this cheat drink or this treat meal, or like I'm going to a party with my friends and I really want to drink, but I'm an athlete, so I can't. And I'm going to keep calling us athletes forever.
Well, because what you're saying, words matter.
Yeah,
So the same way we should be identifying as athletes, right? It's the same thing that happens when we continue to say cheat meal, cheat day. Oh, I have to work out. These words have power, and they don't just have power on ourselves, but the people around us who are listening. And it especially is, it's always concerning to me, even though I am not a parent, when I hear parents or people around children speak like that. We remember, I'm saying we as I
the collective
am,
we.
yeah, right. I'm not, I may look 16, but I am not 16.
But
So yeah.
yeah, and so like yeah, I try and catch myself a lot with the kids and doing that. Like they'll want candy for breakfast and candy for lunch and candy for dinner and just candy. And at times I said, "Oh, we have to eat something healthy," and then I've tried to tune back and just be like, "Hey, we have to have some proteins, or some carbs with your protein, or like then we can have like this snack." Like I've tried to put it on the plate with dinner and hit or miss, but like sometimes it just lets it be associated with dinner that here is this candy or dessert. But it's and then you get questions from your kids like, "What's a protein?" And I'm like, "Well, let's get into it. Here's all the protein items we have," and then they go, "Ew," because my kids are picky eaters. One of them is, but I've tried to catch myself saying those things even to my kids because I don't want them to hear that and associate, "Oh my God, ice cream's unhealthy, candy's unhealthy." And have these disordered behaviors follow them throughout their childhood. Like we're molding their minds as parents, and same thing with like. But to your point, like even if you're influencing the people around you with your words, you're influencing yourself. The more you say cheat meal, the more you believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just eat meals, just have days,
Yeah,
just leave it alone. Sit down. You're probably hungry. You're not thirsty. No. Am I thirsty? Maybe no, you're hungry.
I'm thirsty for some Olipop.
Oh, Olipop. Olipop, are you there? Olipop, are you there? Sponsor Nick. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think all of this to say that as we were to put a bow on this gift that we have brought you today, identifying it's just because society has normalized overtraining as much as it has. I think that's why the general population has such a challenging time figuring out what is discipline, what is health promoting versus what's disordered, and to just recognize that anytime you are reliant on that thing, you should get curious. You should stay vigilant of yourself because the line is really quite thin.
Yeah, and I think there's another side to this too. Is that like it sometimes we see others who are doing disordered behaviors and then they're having success, right? Like someone runs a run streak for 3 years and they run a bunch of PRs, or they run 100 miles a week because it's a round number and we love round numbers, or we exercise every day, or whatever it is. Like, and they're seeing success, and like usually relatively it's new people into a sport or trying something out for the first time, or maybe coming off of like some down period, and they're having success, and so we want to replicate that. And we're like, "Oh well, I'm not having the success they're having, so obviously what they're doing is right?" And so what we don't see is what happens when that person gets catches up with them, right? And so all of a sudden they run 8 races, 8 marathons in a year, and then the next year they have a hamstring tendinopathy that takes them out for 2 years. Well, then they start posting on Instagram. We don't see them in social media. We don't know. They don't want to share their journey anymore because it's upsetting, and they disappear. And then all of us are left with, "Oh well, in that prior year they had all these PRs and they did all this amazing things. Like that's how you have to do it." And then they disappear, and we don't ever hear from the ramifications of their decisions, right? And so I think this idea that like people doing disordered behaviors always achieve success because we see the glamour story on Instagram, we don't see the other side. And if you then you just get this biased opinion of the success that they had when there is this other dark side.
Probably do have a longer conversation, another conversation about certain red flags that we see in fitness. But what you're speaking to is society has made people believe that identifying with fitness and having no interests outside of fitness is healthy.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Nope.
Plot twist. All right.
Did we do it?
Did we do it?
I think we did.
I think we did. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and let us know if you did. You can refrain from letting us know if you don't. Reach out to us at any time between two coaches. That's TWO coaches at gmail.com. You also, if you feel so inclined, can take 30 seconds and give us a 5-star review. For my English language listeners, that's 5. We'll see you next time.
Bye.